return on your investment with that.
Not working much.
Time investment, yeah.
Not working very well.
Well, just not much of an audience there.
Yeah.
Hey, good morning, Facebook. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about somebody else. How you guys doing? Brandon is back with us today.
I'm alive.
He is alive, yes. So we're going to catch up on where he's been and what he's been up to. And then we're going to dig into some cool articles that Brandon has collected over the past few weeks. So if you have any thoughts, questions for us, tips, just interesting parenting stuff, drop those in the comments as usual, and I'll keep an eye on that throughout the show. All right, we'll get started in just a second here. Okay. All right, let's see. Just a moment. Cool. All right. All right, now we can get started. Okay. Welcome to Dadsplaining, a weekly chronicle of all the weirdest, messiest, grossest, and funniest parts of fatherhood, hosted by two first-time dads. I'm Jesse.
And I'm Brandon.
And this week we have Brandon back in the studio, finally, after a long saga of being out sick. Welcome back, Brandon. We are going to get into where he's been and then dig into some interesting news articles that Brandon has collected. So we're going to have some fun with that. But before we do, Brandon, if our listeners want to reach out to us with questions or comments, or if they would like to, be an interview guest on the show, how can they find us?
Yeah, you can reach us on all major social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Dadsplaining Podcast. Please give us a like or a follow there. You can also check out our podcast every single week anywhere you get your podcasts. And if you want to reach out to us directly, you can do so at dadsplainingpodcast@gmail.com.
Exactly. And while you're at it, if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, do us a favor. Leave us a rating, preferably a 5-star rating, and a review if you feel so inclined. I've noticed in the past few weeks that we have jumped up in the search results on Apple Podcasts. I believe we're in the top 30 for fatherhood podcasts right now, which is really exciting for us. So, keep them coming. We love you guys. We appreciate all of the love and support. And by the way, we also are beginning to archive our episodes on YouTube. So if you are someone who listens to podcasts on YouTube, if you just have that app open a lot, around the house or on the go, search for Dadsplaining on there, and you can find most of our episodes. I'm still working on it because it's a little time consuming. But before we get into this week's episode, I want to give a quick shout out to our first interview guest on the show, Aaron Smith. We interviewed him a ways back. Earlier this year, I think, maybe around Valentine's Day, maybe. He was developing a board game called Sheeple. Well, I was excited to see on social media the past couple weeks that Sheeple is shipping out soon. They've finished production on the game and they're getting ready to send it out. So if you didn't hear that episode, go back and listen to it. Just look for, I think, Sheeple board game episode or interview with board game developer. I don't know the name of our episodes. I guess it's because we've done so many. And then just search Sheeple on social media, and he's probably the only search result you're going to find. So, Brandon, welcome back once again to the Dadsplaining studio.
Thank you.
Where have you been, man?
I'm happy to be here as a guest, because I can't be bothered to show up most. No, I'm kidding. If you go back in the archives, I am here for just about every episode. But yes, I have had just a great luck of health lately. Those of you who've been listening, a couple episodes ago, I got into a little bit more detail about some of the other things going on. But the most recent one was just a really bad case of strep throat, as best we can tell. It was, over a week where I just could not swallow, period, which is a very difficult thing.
Oh, yeah.
I know. To not do, because, drinking water, you kind of need to do that to stay alive is what I hear. Eating, things like that. I got very friendly with the people at the smoothie place down the road. That's actually one delightful thing about having a sore throat is a lot of smoothies. But, back strong, just took a little side tour to a couple doctors, couple specialists, ER trip, nothing too exciting, nothing too fun, just trying to figure out.
ER, so was that at the onset of strep?
No, that was at the end when it had been going on for like over a week, and we were like, why is this
man.
still happening?
Yeah.
And so one of my doctors was concerned that there might be something like really bad going on.
Yeah.
There wasn't. Spoilers. So I'm fine, and I got better, of course, the next day after I went to the hospital.
Naturally,
so
and now you
if
get
you're
that big
doing
hospital bill.
really bad, just go to a hospital and, blow a bunch of money, and then you'll feel a lot better the next day somehow. Just not your wallet.
Right.
So yeah, I'm doing A-okay. I have maxed out my deductibles and maximums
Well,
for the year. So
there's that.
mazel tov to
Yeah.
me. I might just throw in a couple random screenings just to cap off the year.
Sure.
Just feeling thrifty at this point now that everything's free, quote unquote. Thanks, Obama. No. Good old insurance. But yeah, I'm alive, and that's kind of what I'm focusing on, is that I can eat foods again.
Good.
I can drink water again. I can do it whenever I feel like it. So that, you don't really realize how important that is, to have control over your own body and being able to do things when you want to. But it was a lot of fun.
Nice, man.
To be back. It was not a lot of fun to have strep.
No, I know. We both had our share of health issues in the past several months, and it's never fun, and it's especially hard when you're also a parent, and then the family is down to one parent handling double duty. How did Austin fare?
Yeah, she did wonderful, of course, because she's just a badass and just, moms just do it in general on a daily basis. But she did a great job, of course. Like, she was always getting up with our son in the mornings, taking him to school, doing that while I slept in, not because I was lazy, but because I was trying to not die. But, having to cover that for an entire week, and then, like, doing the bedtime routine pretty much by herself because I couldn't read books at night because I couldn't really talk. And that's just a very sad thing. You don't think about that. But, not being able to talk to your kid, even though my kid can't talk that much. So, not to be a downer, but yeah, it's, those things are not great.
Yeah, for sure.
But of course she did a great job. So I'm a lucky dude.
Nice, man.
But how have you guys been doing?
We've been doing good. It's been a couple weeks of some gains and some losses on the parenting front.
Oh, yeah.
On the downside, David has become increasingly picky with his dinner. It really doesn't matter what we bring him anymore. He won't eat it. We have to find ways to kind of trick him into eating it. And my wife has been vastly more successful in this area than I have because I have to admit I'm a little bit of a helicopter parent sometimes. And we're going to get into that a little bit later in this episode.
Yeah.
But I tend to kind of, it's not that I worry about him eating. I'm fine sending him to bed a little hungry if he doesn't finish his dinner.
Yeah.
But I try to get him to eat.
Right.
And sometimes I can let go of the reins, but sometimes I just kind of forget to because I go into dad mode. But my wife has kind of learned, and she'll remind me constantly, look, just leave him alone with the food for a while. Don't make him feel like he's being watched, and eventually he'll pick up the food. And sometimes he does. But then one trick that my wife actually has discovered in the past couple nights is so kids love to they'd rather have options, right, than just one option. So and for a while we've just said, hey, do you want this? Can you eat this? Please eat this, or just eat this.
Yeah.
But then my wife tried something different. So he had some chicken and some vegetables on his plate. She picked up a bite of chicken and I think like a piece of carrot or broccoli or something and held it in front of him and said, which one do you want? Do you want the chicken or do you want the broccoli?
Yeah.
And it didn't work for a second, but then something clicked in his head. He grabbed both and stuffed them both in his mouth.
Oh, weird.
And of course we cheer and, applaud and laugh like it's a game. Like, oh, can you grab them both and eat them both at the same time?
Right. Wow.
And that worked. It didn't work multiple times. It worked a couple of times.
Yeah.
And then, you got to find a new trick. Kids are like that. They're kind of like viruses. As soon as you learn to fight it, they'll develop that immunity and strike in a different area. So you got to figure out new tricks constantly, but that's fine. It's all part of the journey. On the positive front, I've expressed in the past few episodes that David has had kind of a regression with his potty training. We've got the training potty, and some nights he'll sit on it, and for a while he was going constantly, and then he just stopped, and then he just lost interest in it. Well, the past week or so, he's kind of gotten back into the groove of it.
Okay.
So, we're not quite at the point where we can get him out of the diapers yet. Parents who are in the middle of that, it's a struggle. But it's an area where we're finally starting to make some progress again, which is really exciting.
Nice. Well, I can definitely empathize. I know exactly about the food and the eating. Want to get on to the topic of the day, but we had our 18-month checkup in the midst of all this time we haven't been around. And
well, let's dig into it. That's a big one.
Well, one of the things that we talked about was eating. Because Noah is the definition of picky, and he just does not like anything green or vegetables or healthy or anything that's not hot dogs, mac and cheese.
Are you sure your son isn't my son?
I'm very sure it's mine. But it might just be that this is what all sons are like, and daughters are just better.
Maybe.
We'll find out. Maybe. No, that is not an announcement. That is not an announcement. We might find out as we talk to other parents of daughters. No. Noah's friends are all girls, so I don't know. I feel like we'll learn a little something from osmosis, perhaps.
Maybe.
But we just think that we're on an island, and that we're the ones with the worst eating kid in the world. So I'm glad that there's two of them, and both are represented on this wonderful podcast.
At least two.
Exactly. There's only two. It's just us.
Yeah.
But she basically told us, our doctor, that this is what kids are like in terms of the fact that they just will not eat dinner sometimes. And probably the best part, if you know me at all, heavy sarcasm. The best part of the visit was her telling me that for probably the next 2 years, my son's not even 2 yet, so the next 2 years, double his life from now, they'll just be in this phase where they just aren't super cooperative about food. They are very picky. They may not eat at all, or they may only eat a couple of bites. So we've been struggling with that for a couple months now, and dreading the fact that it might continue on for a little while longer, and when's it going to get better? And then the doctor lays the big bomb on you that it may just never change for forever. So that was a lot of fun. And I was literally saying something to the effect to the doctor of so you're basically telling me that this just won't change, and I just have to go on living every day with this concern that my kid may or may not eat, and I'm going to be okay with that somehow.
Yeah.
You're asking a lot there, Doc.
Yeah, no, I know. I feel like we're both kind of jumping into the terrible twos a little early.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, the point. I think that terrible twos is a misnomer. It's kind of like rush hour. It's never just an hour.
Yeah.
It's going to be just this phase of a child's life that could last anywhere from 12 months to 4 years.
Right.
And I think we're just going to have to settle in, buckle up, and get used to the bumpy road.
Yeah, it's so exciting. And because the thing I said earlier was not an announcement, this is why it wasn't an announcement, because it's tough out there, bro. Who knows that we'll ever saddle up for number two. Because number one is not panic. We've been joking. It's we'll see how number one goes. It's tough. I'm just going to tell you, it's pretty tough. It's hard to imagine number two right now.
Maybe it's one and done. Who knows? Cool. It's a good spot to transition.
We're just a little unhinged this morning.
That's all right. No, we're getting back in the saddle. I love it. Okay. All right. I'll kick us off. So on to this week's topic. We're going to have a little bit of a news roundup today. Brandon, in his sick leave, has collected a handful of news articles. I believe they're all from USA Today, which is I enjoy USA Today from time to time. I don't read it constantly, but I like how a lot of their articles are based on research studies, which we'll get into, and they include a lot of data, bullet points, numbers. I'm a big numbers guy. So we're covering a kind of a wide range of topics today, so there's going to be something for everybody. So Brandon, kick us off. What do we got first?
Yeah, so wanted to start with a pretty interesting one, and I kind of joked about this a minute ago. We both have boys. We don't know what it's like raising girls.
Exactly.
And so this article kind of stood out to me because we obviously know that all the parents who listen and the dads, you probably have some girls out there. Mazel tov to you. We hope you do. That's great. We weren't blessed with that. You were. We weren't. Just kidding. Love my sons. But this article was talking about a combination of try to stick with this. Barbie, so you know that's going to be off to a great start. GoFundMe. Now you're confused as to why this is connected.
Is Mattel that hard for money right now?
We'll explain.
We'll
so Barbie, GoFundMe. And then a New York University study about kids, and particularly girls, and what we have apparently referred to this phenomenon of the dream gap.
Okay.
So this obviously is not anything that I was aware of because, first of all, I'm a male, so I grew up as a boy. I don't know if you knew this about me. And then I have a son, so I have no perspective whatsoever about women. And you could joke that I just don't, period, even though I'm married and have found a spouse. Maybe I still don't know anything about women or girls. But what was fascinating to me is that Barbie was coming out with a new occupation. So apparently every year they come out with a new Barbie with a new job for Barbie. She has a career, right? Barbie's a career woman. And so every year she's got a new thing, construction Barbie, tour guide Barbie, whatever it is. I'm strictly pulling from Toy Story 2 where they've done the Barbie aisle and that's all we know.
Tour guide Barbie.
Right. That's all I could think about. Yeah. But anyway, we are now coming out with Judge Barbie.
Oh.
And I'm talking like not Judge Judy, but like, RBG. Whatever it is with that. And so the reason Barbie's involved here is that they have seen this study and this data about the dream gap. And it's a little depressing, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, explain this to us.
But this is why we wanted to talk about it, because apparently a study done by New York University in partnership with University of Illinois and Princeton University statistically proved that at a very early age, girls begin to stop associating themselves with careers that are seen as requiring more intellect. This doesn't mean that girls think that they're dumb. It just means that stereotypes are so prevalent about boys and girls and what they can accomplish that even at a very young age, they stop thinking about careers like judges, which we associate with having a lot more education, a lot more skill, a lot more
intellect is valued.
Intellect,
you'd rather have a smart judge.
Correct. And the stereotypes start making them think about things that maybe are less demanding or less requirement for intellect. And so you might hear that and think, we all know the stereotypes. Girls don't think about the sciences maybe, and boys do for whatever reason. I sucked at the sciences, so I don't know where that comes from. But the thing about the dream gap is, and the reason they call it the dream gap, is that as early as the age of 5, that's
pretty crazy.
That's so early. They start to doubt their intelligence. Girls start to doubt their intelligence. And so the reason it's the dream gap is that at that age, you should be dreaming about what you want to be when you grow up. You should be thinking about what you can accomplish and do. And so as a kid, you're playing and you're imagining and you're dreaming. And if you're a girl at a young age, you might stop. You subconsciously, or you're not thinking about yourself in the same realm of like, well, those are like high intellect things that, and maybe they're not for me.
Yeah.
And it's just the society, it's the stereotypes, it's all the things, and it's just amazing that it can impact kids at such a young age.
Yeah. What's interesting to me about it is it's not suggesting that at that age they think they can't. Right. It's just you see a trend where it's where their interest is going, and it's based on, I like the way that the study did this, like they put it in terms for 5-year-olds, like games. So do you want to play a game that is for really, really smart kids, or do you want to play a game that you don't have to be so smart to do? Yeah. And around that 5-6 year mark, they start kind of diverting to those areas. So, they may not grow up thinking, oh, I could never be a math teacher, or I could never be a NASA scientist or something like that. Right. They may just go in another direction because something in the back of their head tells them, oh, you got to be like real smart to do that. And that's a lot of hard work. And maybe I'm not cut out for that. And maybe it's not like a hard, obvious thing in their head, but it's in the back of their head. Yeah. So that's really, really interesting. And, like you said, a little bit depressing, and hopefully things are changing.
Yeah. So the nice part about this is that whether you like Barbie or not, and I think there's a lot of criticism that's fair about that, but it certainly seems like, at least in recent years, that Barbie is trying to acknowledge that we maybe at one time were just like the status symbol, and now we have almost a social responsibility to kind of be better.
Right.
Hence Judge Barbie, and the partnership with GoFundMe is just that they're trying to raise awareness about this issue, and partnering together to try to use the release of the Judge Barbie doll, and just centering it around other activities to raise awareness, and then be able to donate any funds that are raised to programs that help with empowering young girls. So
exactly.
That's kind of the nice side of the story here.
Yeah. And what's funny is when you started off, I thought you meant that they were relying on GoFundMe to make, to put this into production, which is not necessarily the case. Now, I'll say this about Barbie. seems like she jumps from career to career a lot. Like every year she's something new. And maybe that's saying something about people our age in this day and age. We don't stay in a career for more, in a job for more than a couple of years before we find something new. But I hope she's getting a salary bump every time she jumps jobs, because otherwise she's really doing herself a disservice.
Nice. Yeah. Well, now we know why. Like I said, you and I probably weren't very knowledgeable about Barbies, but the reason it's changing is because they at least believe nowadays, the Barbie makers, that they should be showing Barbie as the astronaut and the judge and, these other things that, we should all aspire to be.
That's pretty cool. So what is next on your little news roundup list for us?
So, kind of in a similar vein, in the realm of things that you and I are probably not as in tune with, again, because we're guys and we're idiots and we're morons. There was another interesting article by Busy Phillips, who is a celebrity you may or may not be aware of. I'm kind of vaguely aware, the name sounded familiar to me, but I don't really know much of.
I know the name. She was in a
what
sitcom.
She does.
I want to say
Dawson's
she was
Creek or something like that.
No, something more recent than that, like Raising Hope. I think she was on that show. I don't know.
Maybe so. But anyway, she. Celebrity, so obviously her name kind of gets attention, and I'm not bringing her up because we should listen to what celebrities have to say, but just because when they talk, it makes news, versus if you and I talk, it makes no news whatsoever, except on Apple Podcasts, where we're top 20.
And on Spotify.
And we're all around the world. But Busy Phillips was talking specifically about how she almost got a divorce from her husband because she became fed up with how they were splitting the childcare duties. And she was basically saying that she had to threaten to divorce her husband of over 12 years because she was doing a lot of the childcare responsibilities around the house, and he was just not helping or whatever it was. And so that obviously just immediately triggered something with me where I was like, man, we've talked a lot about how you've got to share the load, you've got to split up the work, you've got to find out what does work. Different people are good at different things, but I mean, we're well beyond the days where the women are in the kitchen and doing the work with the kids and we're just doing the part of bringing home the bacon. Like everybody brings home the bacon and
everybody has to bring home the bacon. Yeah.
And nowadays everybody has to. So what was fascinating was just that starting point, but it actually got even more interesting because I read about what happened, and I might have just read that article and been like, well, that's really unfortunate that it didn't work out, and I understand. That's the way I was going in my mind. And then I hear that the husband basically just, to put it frankly here, he sacked up. Like he just got his stuff together and was like, dang, I don't want to be this guy.
Yeah.
And I just thought that's a great message because he basically was like, okay, I am just going to do better. And so I'm going to get in there and I'm going to be active and I'm going to do these things and I'm going to be involved with this. And he was basically saying no, I am going to save this marriage. And the only way to do that is to be active with my kids. And so Busy Phillips is like, I was ready to leave and I didn't think anything could stop it. And then all of a sudden, I wasn't expecting it, but now, boom, he's back in the game and now we've got our own system. And I mean, it's not like perfection, and that's always the point. Nothing is, but it's just hopefully you don't wait until you're at the end of your rope to have this conversation. But at least she had the conversation at one point before pulling the plug, because guess what? Guys can surprise you. Or if you're on the flip side, your partner can surprise you. So have the conversation. I just thought it was really fascinating just because we don't talk enough as a society about reaching the end of your rope and what that feels like, but you've got to talk about it and acknowledge it because that's the only way your partner might realize wow, I didn't realize how bad it was for you, or I didn't realize how much pressure you're under. Well, you're not going to figure it out unless you talk about it.
Yeah, exactly. And married people can hear this news and probably assume that there were conversations or at least subtle hints here and there leading up to this. Usually these things don't come out of the blue unless you're just not paying attention. If there is an imbalance, in who's doing the duties, whether it's parenting or housekeeping or, making money and that kind of stuff, usually you can tell. You know what I mean? But it's really, really important to keep having those conversations so that you can nip it in the bud before lawyers get involved. Very glad to hear that they struck the right note. I think that's something that, especially, I think, married couples our age who are parents are learning to kind of at least try to hit that balance a little better. I know there's a lot of things I could be doing better, but, I look at the stereotype of dads, and I feel like we're trying, we're making some headway, we're making some improvements, and I think that's I don't know, it's good.
Yeah, I think we can pat ourselves on the back. You know, we're active and we're there, but I am also not just patting myself on the back and just thinking constantly about like can I do better?
Right,
I
exactly.
feel that's my anxiety now, which is a good thing to have, right? That's the kind of the point. We should be worried about it because that means we care. And I want to give all the credit to Busy Phillips for being the first person mentioned here. But if you want to go down the rabbit hole a little bit further, we get to an even more famous couple, Bill and Melinda Gates.
Who are they?
Also,
they're
vaguely familiar.
He made this computer that I'm using right now?
Supposedly, yeah, and the crappy Outlook software. But apparently they had a similar situation. And I mean, this shouldn't be surprising because part of what we're talking about here is that, yes, a celebrity mentioned this and that's why it was newsworthy, but anyone could be going through this.
Yeah.
Well, apparently Melinda Gates was fed up with Bill at one point, and I wonder why. Probably because he was pretty busy
in the
coming up
garage
with a lot
creating
of things.
Windows. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so you can easily see how that relationship could be strained. And there was a particular moment where Melinda Gates describes, I believe she wrote a book about this and kind of some other things, where, you know, they were eating dinner and everyone would get up and then they would all leave and she'd be left in the kitchen, you know, doing all the cleaning up and the whatever for 20, 30 minutes. And so one day she was just like, stop. Do not move. You will stay here, and no one leaves until I am ready to leave from this kitchen. And it worked. And so she kind of had to whip Bill into shape. So I just thought that was really funny because we all think of Bill Gates and like, you know, Melinda's along for the ride, you know, lucky her. But no, she's whipping him around a little bit because he needs it. And Bill Gates, you know, it's nice to know that he's not just a deadbeat dad or anything like that. And he maybe wasn't doing a great job at one point, as all men struggle with. But once again, if you speak up and you talk about it and what your challenges are, men can surprise. And sometimes delight.
That's awesome. You know, and I'll say this about Bill. He's one of those guys, you think Bill Gates, you think Steve Jobs, you know, whatever industry or field they're in. It's not just guys that are like this. Some women are like this too, where you're so passionate about what you do. If you're an inventor or doing something creative, that it kind of consumes you. And my guess, I don't know anything about Bill Gates or their family situation, but my guess is that he, you know, whenever it was in the period of his career that this happened, he was so passionate about what he was doing that he was probably letting it overshadow what was going on at home. And it's a really easy mistake to make, especially when you are being featured in magazines and on the news and you're being interviewed on CNN for creating Microsoft, where you get all that validation. You know, where I've explained this before, you don't get the same validation at home sometimes because parenting and raising a family is not, there are no benchmarks. You know, you can't check a box and congratulate yourself for making a goal. It's just one continuous journey. So, you know, I would say, you know, for dads listening, for moms too, like keep yourself in check. Make sure that whatever it is that you're passionate about in life is not overshadowing the important things, like, you know, making sure your family has a mom or a dad in the picture who's active and involved. I'm glad that they figured that out.
And I mean, one nice thing to kind of end on with the situation, going back to Busy Phillips, is you know, her husband was basically quoted as the reason why he wasn't involved is because he said, quote, "I like being good at stuff, and I didn't feel like I was good in the home, so I stayed away."
Okay.
So I'm not going to say that's any kind of a good excuse, but like just the way that people are thinking, and almost exactly what you were just talking about, Jesse, like men can get these things in their minds where they're like, well, I'm not good at parenting, so I mean, I'm going to let my wife parent because she's much more maternal. I mean, that's her thing, and I'm just going to focus on being really good at work and being successful. Well, that doesn't cut it. And oftentimes the reason why you don't feel confident is because you're not trying. In this situation, he wasn't really trying, and as soon as he started trying, he's like, oh, okay, I can do this. Like, and it's fun, and I get to engage with my kids. Shocking that could be enjoyable, but like, you know, these are the things that, you know, we as humans, and I'm not just going to lay it only on men, but generally speaking, men just kind of think like, oh, we're not going to be good at that. I'm successful in my career. That's what I'm good at.
You know, and make no mistake about it, parenting is hard, but you don't have to be very good at it to be, you know, good at it. I don't know how else to say that. You don't have to be smart to be a good dad or a good mom. You just have to, like you said, you just have to be there. And most of it's common sense. You figure it out along the way. You don't have to be, you know, a rocket scientist to be a good parent. So, you know, if that's your insecurity, I mean, just get over it. It's never a good way to tell someone to break out of their insecurity, but you know, just try. Just try. See where you can, and you'll find some things. Yeah,
I got a good one for you. Older generations hate millennials for a number of reasons. We're millennials, and one of the things is that they're always pissy about participation trophies. Well, parenting, you just got to get that participation trophy. Just show up, man.
Yeah.
If you show up and you get that participation trophy, we're not asking a lot. Like, just
exactly.
do that, and you're going to be very successful. You don't need to get first place.
Yeah. I'll give you an example. My wife can attest to this. For years, I have been worried about really little things that I don't think as a dad I'll be good at, but I feel like I should be good at. Like, I don't know much about throwing a football. Like, I learned as a kid, but like in your mind, you see a dad like throwing the football in the front yard with his kid, and I'm like, I'm not going to be able to know how to teach him the right way to throw a football. My wife's like, please get over it. You don't have to be good at that to have fun, like being athletic with your kid. They'll figure it out. They'll learn it at school, and you can just kind of have fun along the way.
Oh, my God. I love Ashley. Just please get over it.
Yeah. All right. Hit me with that third article.
Okay. So Jesse kind of teed this up at the beginning. We were talking about how he's a bit of a helicopter parent. I feel that in certain situations, I am kind of a helicopter as well. I think dads, we're involved and we're giving ourselves some kudos, but I think that it's fair to say that we're a little bit more laissez-faire about things. We are maybe not as strict. It's just me and you. What I'm kind of gathering about me and you, and the fact that we kind of know each other a little bit. Especially around the eating thing, right? Like, we don't try, or maybe what we do is we try to force our kids to do it because we want them to eat and we're worried about them eating, and we won't let the process happen, or whatever it is, right? So helicopter parents are known for just being constantly around, and doing things for their kids or whatever it is, right? Well, I just learned that there's a new, even worse version, apparently, a new term, even worse than helicopter parents, referred to as bulldozer parents, which just sounds fantastic, I've got to say. And you can see why this caught my attention, because it was like, bulldozer parents on the loose, and I'm like, what is this? So what a bulldozer parent does is that they are known for removing obstacles out of their kids' way. So a helicopter, you're around, maybe you don't let them do anything. A bulldozer, I guess, lets kids do stuff but removes any struggle from the situation.
Yeah.
I'm almost imagining like literal hurdles in life. If you're running the hurdle, like the Olympic event, and you're just like pulling all the hurdles out of your kid's way while the other kids have to go over the hurdles.
Yeah.
So the challenge here is that a bulldozer parent just thinks they're helping their kid. They're making it easier. They're getting rid of the tough things. They're doing it to help their kid succeed.
Yeah.
But if you don't have any struggle as a kid, it makes it very difficult for you to learn how to deal with struggle.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, common sense, right? But this is the problem with this particular brand of parenting, of bulldozer parenting, is that if your kid never has to struggle, they won't learn how to struggle. They won't learn how to get through it.
Yeah.
And then you end up a millennial. I'm just going all out today because it's like, how is it my fault when my parents remove all the obstacles?
They're the ones,
It's not me.
Exactly. I know.
My parents were not bulldozers. They did a great job.
Yeah. The danger there, I think, that also can happen is that you wind up with a kid who thinks that they've achieved a lot, even though what they've achieved was done by a parent who removed all the obstacles. Like, it's like the parents who do the homework for their kids. Which, look, I'm not judging anybody. Every parent is guilty of this in a little way here and now, but it can definitely go too far. The great Southern expression I'm thinking of is a kid who was born on third base and thinks they hit a triple. You wind up with a kid who, everyone talks about entitled kids, like, oh, that's an entitled generation. Well, that happens when they get help, and sometimes they don't ask for the help. So the kids aren't asking for you to take all of these things out of their way. They need a little bit of the struggle to get by and to learn.
Right.
And a real world example of that from my life, my parents weren't like this. They weren't like that at all. But school was, in high school and elementary school, middle school, it was pretty easy for me. Just because I did well with tests and reading books and stuff. But as soon as I got out of college and hit the real world, there were obstacles that I did not encounter, what I mean, in school. So I found that to be very difficult, and I struggled in a lot of different ways. I think that kids who have bulldozer parents are going to meet those same struggles, and because they weren't prepared for it as a kid, they're just going to be bulldozed.
Sure. And then you get bulldozed, right? You're bulldozing your kids at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And to kind of bring it up to a current event. One great example in present day is the college admissions scandal.
Oh, yeah.
That's been going on.
Let's dig into this. I've wanted to talk about this.
Because that's a classic example where instead of having your kid earn it and apply and fill out the application and do all these things, these parents were like paying money and bribes to, usually the examples are like athletic coaches to put them on a team, like a rowing team, even though they have no rowing skills and they never rowed in their lives, and you just pay them $50,000 or whatever it is to be on the rowing team or to get into USC or NYU or whatever it is, the college admission scandal. And that's an example, that's an extreme example, but this article does actually talk about the fact that they interviewed some college admissions folks at universities, and they say that they actually see and have seen a lot more in recent years of essays as part of applications that are clearly filled out by parents. And they can spot it, guys. This is the thing. So like, you think you're going to get away with it and it's just going to be a polished essay and they're going to believe you. No, not so much. Because you're going to use, different language or different metaphors or whatever that a kid probably isn't going to use. I mean, I know we're talking about college, we're not talking about 5-year-olds, but I mean, even at 18, kids are not, we're not all the way there yet. We're not super smart and loquacious just yet. Look that one up. But the college admission example is kind of a good one where even in like high school, if you ever if a parent complains about a teacher's bad grade, things like that, where you're trying to put pressure on the system, and you're just thinking, well, my kid's GPA, I need to worry about it for them or whatever. Well, you're clearing obstacles left and right.
Exactly.
So tell me your thoughts on the college admission scandal,
Oh
Jesse.
my God. So I mean, this is something that clearly it can happen to any parent. Any parent can become that bulldozer and, like you said, clear those obstacles and kind of give that kid the boost that that they probably could have gotten there without the boost. But the fact that you gave it to them means that they didn't have to struggle to get there, which sounds great, but honestly, it's not great. But it does seem to happen more to parents who got a little money in the bank. I'm looking at Lori Loughlin and Felicity Huffman, and
can't believe Lori let us down like this.
Well,
I mean, my God.
Come on, Willie H. Macy, what are you doing, man? Like you had to have known this was going on.
He didn't know. He's fine. He's that parent that didn't sack up.
Yeah, I'm just
that
picturing. Have you seen Fargo?
No.
Oh my God! So I'm just picturing his character in Fargo. He gets interrogated, and he's just he's a total mess. He's a total wreck. But anyway, I get so mad at these parents, not just for what you do to your kid, because you're setting your kid up to fail later on in life when you are no longer there to remove the obstacles for them. But you're also screwing over the other kids that don't have that same advantage, like the kids that that didn't get admitted to those schools because your kid got that spot. There are only so many spots in each school, in each year. So, that kid, just because their parent, didn't star on Full House in the late 80s to early 90s and has those residuals coming in. Now she's not in the Full House, she's in the Big House.
There it is.
For 5 minutes, right? What was it, like a 2-day sentence or something like that? It makes
some
me
of them
so
were
mad.
like 2 weeks, one was like a month. Yeah, I mean, it's absurd what you can
I mean,
get
that's
away
not
with.
even enough time to join a prison gang. Come on.
That's right.
Anyway,
that's right.
I'm getting too deep into it.
Exactly.
I'm getting too hot.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Suffice it to say, don't be one of these parents, and don't think that just because you are not a celebrity that it can't happen to you. You could be a middle-class parent with meager, humble means and still be a bulldozer parent. Like, I think that we're proving that it can happen to anybody, so keep yourself in check. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, exactly. And I just want to say I'm not a helicopter parent at all.
No, not at all. Not us.
Yesterday we were at the park with our son, and he likes playing the jungle gyms. He's not quite big enough yet because he's only 18 months, so we have to protect him from falling off the edge because these jungle gyms are designed to kill kids, apparently. But if you've been to a jungle gym ever, you know what I'm talking about. You get up there, and there's inevitably just a sheer drop-off at one point because there's something stupid like a ladder or something, which a kid of this age cannot navigate without help. And so if he doesn't know that the ladder's there, he's just going to walk off the edge and fall down. So you cut to me and my wife where one of us just follows behind him the entire time to make sure he doesn't just go off the edge, and then the other one follows on the outside to catch him if he does fall. And we were just sitting there being like, we're not helicopter parents. Like this isn't about helicoptering. This is about helicopter rescue. This is a safety exercise because The new thing that he's been trying to do is he knows how to use a slide, of course. I mean, he knows how to do it the right way, but sometimes he just doesn't, and he'll just walk like try to run off the slide into the thin air, and so you have to be very protective. So anyway, I'm not a helicopter parent.
No, not at all. I know how you feel though. Like we let our kid, run around on the playground sometimes, and there's a healthy balance. Like there's a good middle ground between being right there next to them and then just being on the bench looking at your phone for half an hour and not knowing where your kid is. Because there are certain things, like most of this stuff, it's not quite as dangerous as you might think it is. But like I followed my kid around the playground, and there are hornets' nests sometimes underneath the slides.
Dude, some bumblebees would not leave my kid alone yesterday.
Yeah, what the heck is that? I don't know. But yeah, you guys are doing fine.
It is dangerous because I'm going to tell you what happened the other day at the park. So we're at one park where there's two different sets of play structures, one for the littler kids and one for the slightly bigger kids. And the one for the bigger kids, they're making these way too tall these days. I swear to God, this did not exist when we were kids. This one is like 3, 4, 5 stories tall that it gets up to with like a huge slide that goes from top to bottom. And so the slide is like, I mean, I'm not trying to exaggerate, like 10 feet or more up in the air, right?
Yeah.
Think about like a basketball goal. Like it's way up there. So a kid was climbing on top of the slide. Imagine the slide, it's like a tube, right?
Yeah.
So she climbs up on top of the slide and starts crawling up it from the ground up to the top of the slide on the exterior, not inside the slide, where if you lose your footing, you fall back down the slide, but on top of the slide, out exposed in thin air. She's just like bear hugging the slide with her arms wrapped around it and kind of inching up it like a
Spider
koala,
girl?
a koala or whatever, where they're like the bear girl, like a spider girl or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And she gets to the freaking top of this.
Wow.
And all of a sudden, Austin just points to me and is like, "Oh my God, look at that!" And I'm like, "Oh, what's going on?" And I look over, and there's just a kid like holding on for dear life. Kid was not concerned, but looks like they're holding on for dear life with the bear hug around the slide at least 10 feet up in the air, where if they lose their grip, they're going to fall and it's going to be bad.
Yeah.
And I was looking at it and my heart just started racing and I was like, oh my God. And then I was like, I can't watch this. I turned away because I didn't want to see it if she fell.
Yeah.
And then I felt bad because I was like, well, someone needs to be a responsible parent. And I'm like, I can't watch this.
Yeah.
What are kids doing?
Yeah, well, we think that probably, I wonder how much of this is like there's a memory gap between like where we are now and where we were when we were 5 or 6, because I don't know how old that kid was, maybe 6 years old,
Something
7
like
years
that,
old.
probably,
like
yeah.
at that age, you look at that and you're not scared because there's no fear factor. You're just looking at like, that's the epic slide. That's the one that is the stuff of legends. And if I get to the top of that, I will go down in kid history as the one who climbed to the top of the slide, and they get excited about it. Like I remember a little bit of that sentiment when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And, when you get to that age, there's a danger.
I just wanted there to be a parent around. That's all I'm saying, guys.
Yeah.
Like, I understand the kid's perspective, I guess.
Yeah.
I kind of don't understand it, but where was the parent?
Probably on the bench, like scrolling through their Instagram feed, to be perfectly honest with you.
All I'm saying is there were probably 10 kids on this jungle gym structure, and I only saw 2 people that looked like they could have been of a parental persuasion. So I don't know.
Maybe it's a big family.
How it went down, but the diversity, and everyone, all homes are homes and different families, and they can have 5 kids, and you never know.
Who knows? But yeah, I think that just goes back
guys.
to.
I'm just lit today.
That's
I'm
okay.
Back. I haven't been around.
There's some energy in the studio
I'm just flying today.
Yeah, no, I it's like we've been saying that there's with everything, there's a balance. It's been that way since the beginning of time. Like try and find that healthy middle ground between like smothering your child and bulldozing every obstacle in their path, and then just being totally absent, like Busy's husband and almost former husband.
Right.
Find that middle ground. It's hard to do. You're going to fail now and then, but as long as you're aiming for it, you'll hit it eventually.
Right.
Cool. Okay. Before we close out, let me find a good dad joke.
Yep. I'm pretty exhausted.
Yeah, that was a good one though.
So much.
We had a lot to say. Okay, I want to get your thoughts on this next week. For a while, I've wanted to do an episode just about dad jokes and about breaking them down and explaining like why are they funny, what's a good one, what's a bad one, like what are they about, what is the joke on? Because I think it's really interesting, and I think there's some research I could bring to it. What do you think?
Yeah, sure. I mean, why not? If nothing else, it'd be hilarious.
Okay. That'll be fun. Okay, this is good. All right. So that'll do it for this week's episode of Dadsplaining. Brandon, I got to say, it is great having you back in the studio. This has been a really fun episode. I'm glad that we've kind of got the vibe going again.
That's right.
And I can't wait to do it again next week. But between now and then, if our listeners want to reach out to us, how can they get to us?
I might show up next week. You never know. But if you do show up next week, or if you want to show up whenever you feel like it, you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram at Dadsplaining Podcast. Please give us a like or a follow on any of those channels. We stream every week on Facebook Live in particular, so go check out those videos to see the raw, unedited fun that we have every week before we edit it.
It's
and
uncut.
then when we do edit it, every week you can hear our podcasts on any app of your podcasting pleasure. As we have mentioned, please do us a favor and try to give us a rating and a review there. It really, really helps. As we have already plugged, we are rapidly ascending the Apple Podcast ranks, but the only reason we're doing it is because people are reviewing us.
Exactly.
So we really appreciate it. And then if you want to reach out to us directly, you can do so at dadsplainingpodcast@gmail.com.
Exactly. So next week, I thought it might be fun to kind of break down the concept of dad jokes. They're really sort of unique and different from other types of jokes, you know, kind of in the history of comedy. And I'm a big fan. We both are as dads. So we're going to dig into it a little bit, get into the science of the dad joke.
I'm excited.
But until then, I am Jesse.
And I'm Brandon.
And this week's dad joke comes courtesy of the Twitter account Dad Says Jokes. Hey, Brandon, how did the farmer find his daughter?
Oh, wow. I don't know. It sounds like a good one, though. How?
Tractor.
He tracked her?
He tracked her.
Hey!
But tractor.
I like it.
The more you have to explain it, the more of a dad joke it is.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, guys. We'll see you next week. Awesome. That was fun.
We nailed it.
All right. Can we do a little promo video?
Yes, we can.
If you have time.
I think so. I don't think I've got anything until 9:15. So enough time to do that and then get over there and get my coffee.